Welcome to Getting Geeky with Game Relief. If you're new to the show, we applaud you for coming on over. This is quite an episode to get in on. As if you're listening to this right now, and I'm not releasing any more episodes, you know that I've been off by the Sweden mob. But seeing how at the time of this recording, only 0.5% of my fans base was in Sweden, I guess if I'm still alive, the Swedish mob has yet to hear my episode with Karl and Karl that are part of the syndicate. But if you no longer get episodes after this, then you'll know that I've been off by the Sweden mob, and you can still go back and listen to other episodes. But if I'm still here by chance, they don't off me after hearing me divulge deep Swedish mob secrets with Karl and Karl, then you want to join our mailing list over at GameRelief at GameReliefGo.com, as starting next Thursday, there will be an awesome giveaway, a couple in fact coming to you, as well as you'll get exclusive content via email. So yeah, go ahead and subscribe at www.gamereliefgo.com. And now we join GameRelief, Karl, and Karl. Keep in mind, the Karls spell their names differently. I don't know who's right and who's wrong. But we join this interview in progress until the end.
Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf, the podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
With Corello out of the way, you would think that the Metropolis would become a safer place, but the fall of his syndicate will be seen as an opening for other gangsters to take over. I wouldn't be surprised if old Dorothy, the Russians, and that Sicilian wench, or even Corello's bastard will try to claim some of the business. Tomorrow's headline will let everyone know that the Metropolis is about to become a battleground. Do you have what it takes to make the city yours?
Did that sound familiar to you guys? It didn't to me neither, but that is the story of Mobster Metropolis. Create your syndicate and rise to power. A new game that's finishing up here on Kickstarter that funded pretty soon in, and only at the time of the recording only had 11 days to go, so probably has about a week to go at the time of this that you're hearing this. And tonight we're lucky enough to have on two of the creators and masterminds behind this great game. Both of them are Karls, Karl with the K and Karl with the C. Is that correct? Is that how you guys fall in line? Maybe you can both take a chance to tell me, and so the audience can know whether Karl with the K or Karl with the C is talking when they hear us later on down the road.
This is Karl with the C, by the way.
How do you fit in line with Mobster Metropolis, Karl with the C?
Well, I'm one of the three, what do you say, co-creators of the game. I have a background as a producer at a, advertising agency. So I work a lot with both digital but also print projects. So I have a lot of knowledge with like what to think about when printing something, which is really comes in really handy because all the games are going to be printed. And then like a lot of planning goes through me. But then also we work together with the design parts and all the game testing and game editing and everything like that.
What other kind of stuff have you produced, Karl?
A lot of my day-to-day work is advertising. So a lot of like print campaigns, a lot of booklets, things like that, but also a lot of commercials, like film projects and stuff like that. So we work on kind of big projects in Sweden, at least, not like international, but Swedish commercials for television. And
Okay, so that's where you're from, Sweden, then?
yes, we're all from Sweden. Maybe something to add in the start of this podcast.
Awesome. What about yourself, Karl with the K?
Yeah, hi. I'm Karl with a K. So I'm an art director, and I've been an art director for a decade now. So I have done all the graphics in the game, and I'm also like the co-designer of the actual game. And yeah, I have in my day-to-day work, I can do working as an art director, and I've also done some film. It varies a lot. It could be like the other day I was at a shoot for a cheese commercial where two sausages was fighting upon a cheese, for example, and then the next day it could be designing out a website, and the day after that I could be sitting in a really a pitch for like a huge company. So I've been doing creative work on and off, both on my spare time, but at work, for the last 10 years. And it's a lot of films and a lot of campaigns, and it's been a lot of international clients as well. I worked with Adidas, for example, H&M in Sweden was pretty big, and a lot of other big companies. And my work has been awarded in like the Cannes Festival, for example, which is the biggest creative festival there is, and stuff like that. So I've done a lot of design work through my work.
Well, that's exciting. Now, I probably my fans would want me to ask this, or maybe I just want to ask, but are you guys part of the Swedish mob?
The Swedish mob in like the in what way do you mean?
Well, you made a board. It looks like you guys made a board game about Mobster Metropolis, and you're both from Sweden, so I imagine you're part of the Sweden mob.
Yeah, of course. I mean, in that way, we're obviously in the Swedish mob, for sure.
So you heard it here first on Getting Geek with Game Relief. If you ever hear anything going down in Sweden or whatnot and that deals with the Swedish mob, it might have something to do with Karl with the K and Karl with the C.
Exactly. Of course, you don't want to you don't want to say it out loud first that you're in it, but we can finally tell you the secret.
Well, there you go. Now, let's rewind before your mob days or whatnot. We don't have to go back very far, of course, unless you guys were born into board games. But how did you guys get started into the tabletop board gaming world? Maybe we can do the same thing and start with Karl with the C and then Karl with the K if you want to tell us afterwards.
Yeah, of course. I can probably speak for both of us because we've known each other for, I think, 26 years now. And we're 32 and 33, so that's a big part of our lives. But we grew up in like the outskirts of what could be like maybe fifth or sixth largest city in Sweden. And I think we met each other during middle school. And yeah, then it was like a lot of other activities like football and stuff that we like met through. But then we started in high school to play a lot of Counter-Strike together. So we that's where the name Stormakten Production, or Stormakten Production comes from. That's our old Counter-Strike clan. But then after high school and stuff, we all split up and studied in different cities throughout Sweden, but all ended up in Stockholm when it was time to start working. And I think that's when we started like the real heavy board game part of our lives, when we all started working, getting money, and like whenever we met to see each other, we we like to play things together. And just let's face it, board games are a lot more social than video games. So that's what we did, having a couple of beers and playing board games. Yeah. So I think basically, yeah, we started buying board games and started playing them. So every time we met, we maybe played like one that we really liked, and then one new one. So we kind of quite naturally came to like talk about the difference in the different board games and found like the interest of making one as well. But yeah, I think we all kind of have the same similar story. Maybe Karl has a couple of other games that he's played throughout the years. Maybe let's talk about those.
I mean, I have been in the kind of the geeky hobby world my whole life. I started playing a lot of Warhammer Tabletop, and then I played a lot of role-playing games, and then also I played a ton of Magic the Gathering. So I've been in all of those like different genres of geekiness, so to say. And then now, when you get older, the board game, it fills that that emptiness of geekiness that I need. So yeah, so now it's all board games.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. So minus Mobster Metropolis, do you guys currently have favorite board games? Because I imagine my audience wouldn't like me to let you pick your own game. They might have me drug out in the street and hung if I let you guys do that.
I have. I'm gonna mention two that I've been playing a lot the last couple of years, and that's Star Wars Rebellion that I really love. It's very thematically, and it's a great game to play when you can't gather a full group, so you only have one friend. And I play that a lot with my older brother that's 4 years older, and we can sit down a full night and play it. So that's Star Wars Rebellion. And then I also really like Great Western Trail, because it has a lot of different elements, and I just think it's a really, really great game. So those two games are the ones that I played the most the last couple of years that I think shines.
What about yourself, Karl?
I think my two favorite ones right now is the other big Kickstarter of last year. I think it was 2 years ago. Kingdom Death that arrived like last summer in my home. I got I think 6 expansions yesterday to my home, so I'm really looking forward to playing those. But that
is that Kingdom Death Monster?
yeah, minus. I put small hats on all of my figures, so they look like mobsters. No, I didn't.
Oh, there you go. That's perfect. Yeah, because I have a couple of fans that are over in what do you call it, Scotland. I know at least one of them. Mark, he's been on the show a couple times. Mark of Wreck and Ruin fame. He's had his game on Kickstarter a couple times. Hopefully, the third time will be the charm. But he likes Kingdom Death Monster as well.
Yeah, but it's a like huge game, and it's gonna take me a long time before I finish it. But I know if I ever will finish it though, because it's so many expansions and stuff.
So in putting the hats on them to make them mobsters, does that play a little bit different than just regular Kingdom Death Monster?
A little bit. They also get Tommy guns, so they can attack from like huge distances. No. But yeah, it's such a high production value in the game. There's so many components and really like nice art and stuff. So I really enjoy that. But otherwise, like, there's also the game. What's it called?
Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis. Yeah, exactly. That I really love right now. It's such a like abstract game, but still really beautiful, and like the whole 3D aspect of it. Like you have to always think about positioning in the game, which really something I fancy.
Well, there you go. So yeah, besides out of those four games, the only one that sounds relatively similar would be you putting the mobster hats on the Kingdom Death Monster miniatures or whatnot. Karl with the C, but they're quite different because the word on the street is you guys currently have a game on Kickstarter called Mobster Metropolis. What can you guys tell us about that?
Yeah, so Mobster Metropolis is it's a 2 to 4 player strategy game, and it needs to be a little bit older, probably around 13 and up, because it has a little bit of blood, and you're building brothels, for example, and whatnot. But the game starts with it has the story that the Carello, the old godfather of the metropolis or the city, have just died. So you as a player take the role of an upcoming gangster, and then it's up to you to create your own syndicate, and then you compete with other players to do that. So you build turfs, you recruit people on the street, you buy weapons on the black market, you attack other players with drive-bys, and then of course there's other elements that, for example, you need to look out for the police when it makes raids, and so on and so on. So it's a classic gangster movie, but it's played out as a game. It has all those classic elements from, say, for example, the Godfather movies, but also another big inspiration has been Boardwalk Empire, the series, and the whole world, more or less, in the gangster world. So yeah, that's the game.
Okay. Yeah, you talked about a couple of the inspirations, minus being in the mob there in Sweden. So a couple of the movies and TV shows inspired that as well, you said?
Yeah, exactly. I think being in Sweden did inspire us very much, because there's no real gangster presence more than us. But but
Oh boy. You guys are the Sweden mob.
exactly, we're representing we have our own little crew. I think that of course, like the old movies and those are and the new really good new series is inspiration. And what we felt was that there wasn't really any gangster or mafia game out there that could represent those. There is a ton of this like half gimmicky card games that just throw on a mafia theme on them and whatnot. And then of course we started this project 4 years ago, and that was before the Godfather game came out, for example. But we are really happy that the Godfather game and our game is very different. The Godfather game is more of like an area control game, and ours is much more of a build your own syndicate and like structure or strategy game, and much more hidden components, and ours is much more punchboard heavy, while the Godfather is much more like miniatures. So they both have their own place, I would say, in the board game community, and you should definitely check out both, because we really need more gangster themed game, I think, in the board game community. There's tons of zombies, and there are tons of elves and fantasy games, but there's not so many great gangster games out there.
For sure. When did the Godfather game come out? Do you remember? When did that release?
Actually, that released a year and a half ago, I think, or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, the Kickstarter was then, but the game, like official release, was last year, I think, 2017. That's what it says on Board Game Geeks, at least.
Yeah, I think I remember that after we worked 2 years with our game, they released like Eric Lang released the cover of the Godfather box. So that was a little bit of like, oh, is this good or bad for us? Let's hope that it's good. And I think actually it has been good. because as I said, it's two different games, but they all play into this gangster world that at least we love.
Yeah, I was about to ask if that was a good thing for you, because it looks like you had this on Kickstarter previously back in 2016. Is that right?
Yes, correct. We did a first attempt then, and that was like while we did the campaign, that image actually came out. But I don't think that had to do with our campaign didn't go through that time. It was more of more that we were a little bit naive, maybe. And actually, that first Kickstarter was pretty good, but it didn't go through because of other things. For example, we had over 200 backers, like right from the start. But one thing that we did, looking back, that was of course one of the main reasons why we didn't found that time, was that we didn't do as much research with, for example, the manufacturing or the printing of the game. So we just picked the best one that we knew by then, by that time, and that was Panda Manufacturing. And they are really good, but they only do 1,500 copies. So we needed to get a ton of backers in to even found the game. So now, when we have more knowledge, we have talked with say 6 or 7 different manufacturers. So we can print out 500 games now. So the goal now, when the same thing happened, we got in 200 backers fairly early. Now we were up to 80% instead of, with our first attempt, up to 33%. And to bring in those 400 extra backers that we needed when we first launched the game 2 years ago, that was really hard as a first publisher. So I think that the game itself has, of course, developed a little bit more since the last 2 years, but the main focus has been to actually do the Kickstarter right, and also this with reviewers and all of that. We were a little bit naive the first time around and thought that we didn't need that and stuff like that. So we're just much more prepared. It was still a good game back then, but it's even better now, and we are just much more prepared.
So you talked about reviewers and stuff. So you're probably pretty biased and stuff, and I know you guys are the syndicate there in Sweden or whatnot, so you can just force people into backing it there in Sweden. But minus there and whatnot, where if they don't want to take your word for it, I know you guys are in the mob and whatnot, but maybe you guys don't have as much influence in the places that they might be backing the game or whatnot. So if they don't want to take you guys' word for it, the threat of the Sweden mob doesn't really scare them, but they want to find out what other people think about it. Who do you have reviewing the game?
Yeah, so we have a small preview that Tantrum House did, and they actually put in a lot of thoughts on the game, even if they didn't have to. And then also we have a more like in-depth preview of like all the elements of the game from Man vs. Meeple, and they are really big. So that was really fun that they took on our game. And then we have Undead Viking, who's doing both showing off the preview of the game, but also a review where it talks about the game. And then we have a fourth review, but that's only in Sweden. But that is actually from the biggest reviewer in Sweden, and he actually was part of the process of this game. We invited him early to test the game and to be a part of the playtesting of the game. And we have done so with a lot of big names in Sweden that maybe international you don't know about, but it could be good to know that we have included a lot of well-known persons in the board gaming community in Sweden that have looked at the game and given feedback in all the different stages. And we have playtested it now for many years, so we are super happy with the end product.
And who is that reviewer in Sweden, or is that something if you told us you'd have to kill us?
No. He's on our Kickstarter campaign as well. All 4 of the previews and reviews are on the Kickstarter page in that section. So you can just look him up and look all of them up. That's the easiest.
How do you say his name? I don't want to slaughter it. I do fear the Sweden mob a little bit.
Well, his name is Thomas, so you can say that. But otherwise, it's I actually also have a problem with pronouncing his name, because his name is like Konrad Drago or Konrad Dargo, but it's like I always say it wrong. So I waited my longest to have to say his name, because now I will be slaughtered too.
Oh boy. So he's a little bit higher in the mob than you guys? I thought you guys were the syndicate.
Well, I would think that he's more of a hitman kind of person. He works alone, but yeah, now we're on his...
He's really buff as well.
Yeah, he's like doing a lot of workout. His Instagram is filled with either board games or he's being at the gym. So now we are the target on our backs. So thanks for that.
Oh boy, well, you don't have to worry right now. I hope you will later on, but you don't have to worry right now, as Sweden, the downloads in Sweden are 0.53%, but I'm hoping with you guys being in the mob that'll go up, that number will go up, but hopefully he won't listen maybe.
Yeah.
Definitely will. We'll make sure it will.
There you go. Yeah, tell him. Yeah, use your mob presence. That'd be great.
We will, and that is actually, if you look at the backers of the game, it's 1/3 Swedes, and then we have 1/3 of Americans, and then the third part is like all around Europe. So it's pretty divided crowd of the game.
And I also noticed something else from the change. I don't know if it didn't look like you had it before in the last run of your Kickstarter, but it looks like you're sending to Australia as well. I didn't see the picture for Australia in the previous Kickstarter.
Yeah, I think that like what we have done with all of the shipping is much better this time around, and that's one of the things that we are, as I said before, we put a lot of effort into looking into a lot of different shipping solutions. Joel, who's not here, has been doing a really good job with that. So we have a lot of different ways to get the game out now with the fulfillment centers and shipping. So we have looked a lot into bringing the costs down for both manufacturing but also shipping, because that's such a huge part, and we try to make it really friendly for our Americans also with only a $10 shipping. With this game is huge, and we need to remember that this game has over 700 components and it weighs quite a lot, so our shipping prices is actually, I would say, extremely good for this heavy game.
Wow, yeah, $10. That's amazing, because I've had to do in some giveaways. I'd had to send packages to people, and I want to say the games were lighter than this, and they cost me more than $10 if I recall correctly.
Yeah, they can, and then of course yeah, exactly. I mean, we just like negotiated and got a really good price, and then of course you have different costs that you move around, but we're super happy that we can offer that kind of price for Americans, but also in Europe it's a good price for the weight of the game. But in Europe you have other what do you call it, fees that you don't have in the States, for example. So it's yeah, it's a good shipping price, we think.
There you go, for sure. So, per se, we were to sit down to play Mobster Metropolis, how would that look? I mean, how would it sound? This is a podcast after all. How would our turns look, Karl?
Yeah, the the turns of the game is divided into a lot of different steps. We created those steps just to get like a really streamlined experience from start to end. I think it's 9 steps right now, and it sounds a lot, but a lot of those are really short, and you just focus on doing one thing. There's 2 bigger rounds where you have more of the thought processes. The first one is what we call invest, which is when you spend all of your money, basically. You build buildings, you buy cars, and you can visit the black market to buy some weapons or things like that. You can recruit, we call them recruits, is what we call them, but people that can help your empire gain even more money or defend it. So that's the like bread and butter phase of the game where you buy stuff. But then also you have another big step that's called the drive-by phase. And that's when you basically interact with each other in the biggest way, when you attack each other. And so you basically have this really open board in front of you where you can basically build wherever you want. There's a different tiles on the board. There's 9 districts, and each district has their own tile, which is randomized between game rounds. And those give the different districts different attributes. So some districts might be a little bit worse to build in for you. Some are better, and then it kind of makes this feeling of that you fight for the different districts. And then once you've like built your what do you say, illicit businesses in different places, you have to focus hiddenly on whether you want to boost your profits or defend that business. So you every round for every business you have to make decisions regarding whether you want to play it safe or earn more, basically. And then later, when you have the drive-by, you send out also hiddenly your cars to different businesses to perform drive-by attacks. And if the player that attacks wins, he basically steals the income from that player. So if someone is really greedy and focuses a lot on adding more income on their buildings, they can really suffer from being attacked from the other players because they won't get any money and the other player gets money instead. So it's kind of a balance all the time, basically, between do I want to defend or do I want to make a lot of money?
And I think that all of this together is like the we have all the different phases and all the different mechanics kind of like without saying, they are inviting people to have this kind of rivalry between each other, and also like it triggers this because a lot of it is hidden, and then some of the cards, like we have like cards, for example, at Cuban Cigars, where you get money yourself and you give it to the other players, so you kind of build small alliances out, not in the actual game, but like while talking. And then, you know, when you're doing all of this hidden, you can say that, oh, but maybe I shouldn't attack you here, or all of this like talking around the table becomes pretty like gangster-ish, because you of course that's like where the fun interaction parts in the game is, and we have put a ton of, you know, hidden placement, and hidden movements in the game to create that kind of feeling that in the bottom it's a strategy game where you build your own syndicate, but you interact with the players in more or less all the phases, and that's where the game really shines, where, you know, you have all of these moments where you reveal something and then something didn't work out as you planned, or someone betrayed you, or someone did something good, or so I think that that's where it's that's the feeling around the table, that you're all friends and you're all happy, but at the same time it's a lot of take that moment where
a lot of backstabbing.
Yes.
Well, that's always good. Yeah, I like games where it's competitive and whatnot like that. Are there a lot of choices to be made? Because I suffer from AP or analysis paralysis. Will my friends hate me more by playing this game? Will it take me forever to do my turn or whatnot?
No, actually, So for example, the two phases that are that every player have, where they take choices. For example, the first bigger phase, the invest phase, you take turns. So you have 4 different things you can do. So maybe you buy a turf, which is a building, and then it's the next player, they do something, and then it's the next player. So you never sit more than a couple of minutes where you don't do anything, and whatever that player is doing is affecting you. So there is never any downtime. So you go around until someone has passed, and then you go forward. And I mean, we love games where you interact a lot and where you never have to sit and just watch someone else play. And this is definitely a game where everyone is playing and everyone is looking at each other while they're playing, and you don't have to sit and wait for someone to do hundreds of things. And it's the same with the drive-by. You initiate one drive-by, and then usually 1 or 2, or it could be a lot of players in that drive-by, and then someone else plays a card, and then it's another drive-by, and then it comes back to you, and you play another drive-by or a card. So it always goes around. It's never a feeling of one-man show, so to say.
Well, that's good to hear. So, per se, somebody takes a chance on this. When should they, and I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but when would they anticipate getting their copy of Mobster Metropolis?
So that is in January 2019, and that is, of course, it's quite some time until January 2019, but that's the schedule we have, and I think that is we can more or less promise that is putting in with a bit of timing for ourselves. We don't want to let down our backers, and then of course we all 3 have worked in very big projects before, so we have done a lot of planning before. So this is not something we just throw out in the air. So we're January 2019. I would say that backers should have their game.
Well, there you go. That's awesome. So now this wouldn't be, per se, some of the fans or people who listen into the podcast have fallen asleep. It wouldn't be because of your great game or because of Karl or other Karl. It'd be because of me and my podcast. At the time of this recording, the middle of April, we'd already dropped 56 episodes from the first of the year. So they get a little tired of hearing me drone on. And I don't usually have anybody from the syndicate or from the Sweden mob on. So that's new to them as well. So they've fallen asleep, but they're suddenly jolted awake, so they don't hit that oncoming traffic, or they don't die during that drive-by that's going by their house or whatnot. And they're suddenly jolted awake or whatnot. And now you guys, both you, Karl, and you, Karl, with a C and with a K, you have their full attention. So why should they take a chance on Mobster Metropolis, especially with all the other great games that are out there currently on Kickstarter?
So yes, I think if you have been waiting for a gangster or mafia themed game where you get to do everything what happens in a classic movie, you should definitely check Mobster Metropolis out. It has a ton of strategy. You build your own syndicate. You need to think about when and who to attack, what cards to use in an attack. You have to prioritize between defending and getting income to your syndicate, how to prioritize with your cards when you draft, and you have to think about all the different timings that you can do within the game. So it's a ton of strategy in this game, and it has a ton of replayability with its open city. It has different district tiles that is different in each game. You have newspaper cards and police cards that's going to be different and for each game, so you can play it over and over again. And it's super fun with all of the hidden movements and the hidden placement of the different tiles. So it really brings out this gangster feel where nothing is for certain and anything can happen, and you have to really be aware, and you don't know who's your friends and who's your foes or enemies. So yeah, I think that if you've been looking for this gangster themed game, you should definitely check it out.
There you go. What about yourself, Karl, with the C, seeing how you're part of the syndicate as well?
It's
Do you have anything to offer on why they should check this out as well?
Yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of playtesting, both with super experienced people and people who doesn't really play board games at all, and they all really enjoy it and like get into it quite easily. Since we have this set up with all the different steps, it's really, really simple to know what you're supposed to do in every step, or like what you can do, more or less. So putting this in front of someone who hasn't played board games before, you're gonna like the first round you're gonna go through all the steps, but then afterwards it's gonna just like it always flows pretty smoothly through the game. So it's a game that you can get into pretty easily, but also has this strategic depth. So there's a lot of decisions to make. I think that makes a really strong game.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah. And another good thing is it's already funded and you guys are cruising through the stretch goals, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have. We founded fairly early, and now we're in this mid-campaign stage where we're ticking off stretch goals. I think we have 5 stretch goals down, and we have a couple of social stretch goals down as well. And now, when this is out, it's going to be about a week left. So we're going for a strong finish, and we know that in the end of the campaign, obviously, there are going to be we're going to put some more money into marketing, and then also a lot of people comes back in the last couple of days. So we are looking to finish strong, and we hope to get even more stretch goals on the way and in the end of the campaign, of course.
Cool. And you can't beat those shipping prices as well, especially you guys in the USA. It's only $10 to get that to you guys, and it looks like $15 in Europe and 10 in the UK. Is that on top of the taxes, or they don't have to worry about any of that?
No, it's no taxes in that. We cover all of that.
Well, there you go. So yeah, there you go. So yeah, only 10 and if you're there in if what you say is true and you guys being part of the syndicate and more people there in Sweden might be listening, you can pick it up for only $5, it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. We have pickup in 4 cities, the 3 largest cities in Sweden, and we have talked with the different game stores, and you can just pick it up. And it's as you said, it's only a $5 pickup, and if you want it, you can of course get it shipped home as well, but it's a little bit higher price. But yeah, you should definitely go and pick it up, and we of course going to be also there most of the times, like when we have these dates where you can come and meet us as well and pick up the game. So that would be fun to meet some of the fans as well.
And will you all be wearing your mobster hats, I imagine, when they come pick it up?
Of course.
There you go. Yeah, you wouldn't want to disappoint. So that's awesome. Now, I know you guys said you might have listened to some of the podcasts or whatnot, so you might have anticipated this, or you may not have. Either way, the next portion of our podcast is called Adventures in Application Acquisition, where we talk about an app, be it for your smartphone or for your tablet or computer or video games. I don't know what apps are like over there in Sweden or whatnot, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be related to board games or being part of the mob or whatnot. They don't have to be mob apps that you guys use for the mob work in your lives or whatnot. It can be anything really. But is there any applications or apps you guys use a lot of that we can talk about for a moment?
Yeah, I can start. I have an app that I work with every day, and it's called Slack. And it is more or less a tool where you chat in. It reminds me a lot, and I think this is why I really like it. It reminds a lot of the Mirk or IRC that was very popular when I was young, and we played a lot of computer games where you had different channels for different clans, and a lot of people used it for other things as well. But this is a tool where I use every day at work, where you have different channels where you can talk with different people. All the people are in there, so you can send direct messages. You can create own channels. You can upload files. You can have video calls in it. It's just like a tool where you bring everything together, and it works really, really, really good for work. But if you are like a bunch of people who want to get together and have different channels for different things, it's great. If you want to create a board game, you could have it and use different channels for different sections of what you do, shipping, manufacturing, etc., etc. It's just a really, really good app, and it also you can build bots in it. It picks up different things from your Google Drive. It has all of these different things, and it's developing. It keeps being better and better, and they develop it more and more. So Slack, it's called, and it's really, really good.
And be honest with us, Karl. I imagine there's a channel for your syndicate as well.
You mean on Slack?
Yeah.
It's actually not a we haven't. We don't have a public Slack channel, no, because it's more like you use it within the company or within the group. It's not like open like that. But we have tons of other.
I'm saying within your mob. I imagine your mob has a channel as well, but you don't. I know you can't tell us that exactly, but I imagine you guys have a channel too.
Yeah, I mean, you could think that we would have a lot of different channels with a lot of our different businesses, but of course, I mean, hypothetically, we could have that, and we could also have used it a lot with our game and all of this, but yeah, you never know.
Okay, yeah, and if we knew for sure, you'd have to kill us. What about Karl with the C? Is there an app you use a lot of we can talk about?
Really hard to decide which one, but I think I'll go with Headspace, which you might know what it is.
No, what is that, Karl?
It's an app for basically for mindfulness. Like it's exercises to use when you're in different kind of situations. There's like a situation for if you're afraid of flying, you can listen to this thing for a couple of minutes before, and then you feel better. But basically, I use this mostly for when we've been working with a project really late, and going to bed is a tough thing to do because you're like amped up with lots of like ideas and thoughts in your head from working with the creative board game design. Then there's this really nice section for like falling asleep, and if I put that on, I am asleep in like 2 minutes. I've never heard the end of that. I think it's 10 minutes long, and I've never heard the end of it. So it's really working for me to get some sleep after working late, which is really important when you have a full-time job and working on this in the evenings.
There you go. I imagine it's good for like if a podcaster wants you to wake up before the sun arises, or if somebody in the mob, another mob or another syndicate is torturing you, trying to get information, huh?
Exactly. I just plug in my Headspace when they're torturing me, and I won't leave them any information.
There you go. There you go. So now you know the secrets behind it, whether Karl uses, why he uses Headspace and whatnot. So, Karl, while we're still on that, if you own the rights to Headspace, what would be one thing you would do to make that a better app or fix it?
That's hard. It's actually pretty good as it is. Wouldn't change the voice, at least, because the voiceover in that app is really nice. You should check it out. I would make it. It does cost a bit, so I would make it cheaper if I could.
Okay, yeah, we try to make a green podcast, so anybody else who's listening that has anything to do with development or whatnot of the apps. So if anybody from Headspace is listening, you heard it here first on Getting Geeky with Game Relief, what Karl would do to make Headspace a better app, because maybe other people out there are not part of the Sweden mob, and so maybe it's a little bit costly for them, and so they may not be able to use their funds that they get however the mob gets their funds. And that way everybody else can benefit from Headspace. They may not be tortured, or they may not have podcasters having them get up early in the morning, but this way everybody can benefit it, and not just from Karl with the C from the Sweden mob. What about yourself, Karl with the K? What would you, if you own the rights to Slack, what would be one thing you would do to make that a better app?
Yeah, I'm thinking that it's I think that maybe I would do so that I have no idea actually. I have no I have no idea. I would probably like mobstify it then, so the everything you're writing is like gangstified, and as Karl said, like if you're doing a video, then it would be filtered, and the voiceovers would have this kind of voice that we have in our presentations, where it's has a little bit, have been drinking a little bit too much and been smoking a little bit too much, etc. So I would get in the right kind of mood when I'm at Slack too.
There you go. So if you're listening, any of the creators of Slack or whatnot, you heard it here first on Getting Geeky with Game Relief, what Karl will do to make that a better app. Go ahead and mobstify it for those who might be in the Sweden mob, or I guess any mobs anywhere. There you go. There you go. Now, we don't want to keep you all day because I know you guys woke up really early. Maybe there's still time for a nap. It doesn't sound like it, though. And it sounds like the kids might be stirring or whatnot. But minus coming over there to Sweden and having a chance to be able to get ousted by the mob or whatnot, how would people go, and being able to stalk you in person, how would people go about finding out about you or what you guys have going on in the future?
I think best channels would possibly be Instagram. We have, can't remember, it's Mobster Metropolis, right? Yeah, Mobster Metropolis on Instagram. Stormakten Production on Facebook.
Yeah.
And we're on Twitter. What's the name of that one, Karl?
It's Stormakten Production, Stormakten_prod. And then, of course, the Kickstarter campaign. As long as it's up, it's the best way to comment or get in touch. Or, as Karl said, the Facebook page, which is Stormakten Production.
And as this is late in the campaign or whatnot, is there going to be an option for people who might miss it and might be listening after the campaign's over? Will there be an option for them to pre-order anything afterward?
That's the plan, at least, to have some kind of late pledge that will be sticked to the Kickstarter campaign when it's done. But if you want to be sure to get a copy, I would back the project.
Yeah, for sure. I was just saying if somebody misses it, like if they listen later on. But yeah, for sure, make sure you go ahead and back this so you don't miss out on Mobster Metropolis. I know you may not be afeared of the Sweden mob as you may be here in the U.S. or whatnot, but be careful. They might get you.
Exactly.
There you go. There you go. Now, so we don't want to keep you all day. Like I said, it sounds like people are starting to stir there or whatnot, and we don't necessarily want your family to discover your mobster ties or whatnot.
Dark secrets.
Do you have any more threatening words for my audience?
No, I just think that you should go and check out the Kickstarter campaign and see if the game is something for you. We are super proud of it. We've been working on it for 4 years now. And I think that the campaign page has something for everyone. It has like it shows all the different phases if you're interested in that. With the quick preview, it has the rule book if you're more into that, into like digging into the actual game itself, and it has really good previews and reviews if you're more into watching a video and sit back. So check out the game and see if it's something for you, and hopefully you will have a game in January.
Well, there you go. There you go. So, yeah, we don't want to keep you all night, or I guess all day for you guys, but we really appreciate you taking time out of your syndicate responsibilities to join us on Getting Geeky with Game Relief, Karl and Karl.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. It's been nice.
No problem.
It's time for Kickstarter Corner. To begin now.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and try to sneak in a quick Kickstarter Corner before I get offed by the syndicates, Karl, or their assassin, I forget his name. But before I get offed, I will go ahead and bring you this next Kickstarter Corner. Hopefully this will not be my last Kickstarter Corner, but in case it is, do know that I loved being Game Relief and getting geeky with y'all, and that it was my pleasure. Do know that. And then let's go ahead and get on with it, shall we? I got to hurry and get through this Kickstarter Corner because you never know when Karl might very well send anybody from their syndicate over, or somebody might listen to one of our episodes and decide that they want to off us. But anyways, let's get on with Kickstarter Corner like she said, shall we? Yes, we shall. So, first off, we've got Swords and Cells, Rewrite History in 1000 AD. Swords and Cells is an epic conquest and diplomacy game about leading your armies and fleets through medieval Europe in 1000 AD. They have funded, yes, they have funded, and they got about 10 days to go, going through the 28th of April, 2018. Want to know more about this game? Stay tuned to an interview that we have coming up very shortly with Jason himself. And then you heard us interview this guy. He's also got 11 days to his Kickstarter. But Dungeon Brawl, it's a customizable free-for-all RPG board game. In this board game, your friends are now your enemies, vying for the treasure. Choose a class, create a deck, and destroy your friends. Your dungeon crawl has now become your Dungeon Brawl. I really hope they make it. As I said, they only have 11 days to go, and if they don't, I hope they relaunch. But go ahead and show them a little bit of support, and let's see if we can help them fund this project. It goes through Sunday, April 29th. And then we've also got Cat Rescue. Cat Rescue, the game of saving cats. Cat Rescue is a 1 to 4 player co-op game. Players work together to save cats and adopt them, just like in real life. They're way over their goal. They still have 50 hours, so probably about 48 hours to go or so when you hear this, maybe a little bit less. And they go through the 19th of April. Did I tell you? They're making an app out of that. Tatey woo, this great game is great. And also, Arena the board game. Well, Arena the contest tabletop miniature board game. It's a fantasy tactical combat miniature tabletop for 1 to 8 players with a co-op dungeon crawler and player versus player team competition. Right now, they were going for 50,000. They're almost at 500,000 with 8 days to go. I know Lady Leaf and us, we really like it. What game could be wrong if there's a dragon in it? They go through Thursday, April 26th. 2018. Hoping we can bring this to the table. We shall see. If we do, you will get the preview episode here on Getting Geeky with Game Relief. Probably next week. Hopefully next week. And then don't forget about Terminator Genisys, Rise of the Resistance. It's a co-op 1 to 4 player action-adventure game featuring an original campaign set in the 2029 Terminator universe. I gotta check out Terminator. I wonder if it's on Netflix or Amazon. I don't know. But they're at 63,879 out of their 80,000 and a half goal. And they go for about 12 more days, ending the 30th of April. Definitely check that one out on the Kickstarters. And then there's a couple more that have recently launched. We've got No Escape. No Escape is a competitive maze building game where you take that. So it's a maze building, take that game for 2 to 8 players. And I recently sat down with the creator of this, and he will be on the podcast in the coming days. So pay attention for that. And then another one that just recently launched is Dobbers Quest for the Key. It's on Kickstarter now, and let's see here. We go ahead and actually have him on the show as well. It's an epic and highly competitive game. In Dobbers Quest for the Key, you race your opponents across the board of changing and unpredictable adventure. You face the constant tension between building your personal deck, making your hero stronger, than your opponents and placing new challenges on the board in front of them. So, it is a deck builder with a board. It's kind of like Clank, but it sounds like it might be better. I have yet to bring Clank to the table, and I'm really looking forward to Dobbers. Now, it looks like I'm still with you, and hopefully you're still with me listening. So far, the Swedish mob has not offed me yet. Hopefully they won't, if everything goes according, and not the bosses of Karl and Karl don't catch on and don't send anybody from the syndicate over. I should still be with you. If that's the case, make sure you go ahead and sign up for our mailing list at gamerleaf@gamerleafgo.com so you can get exclusive content, including a giveaway that will be coming your way starting the 26th of April, which is this next Thursday. So definitely pay attention to that. And then it's our least favorite time, and hopefully this won't be the last time I'm coming to you. If it is, it's due to Karl and Karl's Swedish mob. But anyways, get geeky, stay geeky, and bring others into the geekfold, and I hope we'll catch y'all next time.
Game over. Tune in next week to see if Gamerleaf and Dreams are respawned.